and suddenly there's authorization to go investigate them as well.
It doesn't of necessity mean that they are investigated. Any and all individuals or entities whose identities are currently unknown, but which may become known during the course of the investigation. Once those details come through, investigators are able to determine whether those are persons of interest to be investigated or those are persons whose names have come up and are potential witnesses.
So technically it's left to then the investigators. If they like me, they come across my name, they don't have to investigate. But if they don't like me, then they investigate. Do you understand my challenge? Is I think too much power resides and discretion resides with them. And that somehow has the potential to undermine the system. Doesn't it?
I take your point, but that shouldn't be done.
Okay.
That is not what the purpose of this insertion is. And it was also for practical reasons. You've got the authorization, you're conducting investigations, names come up, and the names can be either or. So if it is persons who would fall into the category of suspects or persons of interest, then you'd have to come back for an amendment. Yes. And so you are able to then deal with the investigation without the to and fro of the. I do take the point.
Okay.
And perhaps it could be couched somewhat differently, but this is what we have used over the time.
But isn't it a necessary control mechanism that what has been justified to you are the specific names? So you were given these names. There must have been justification to you. We had the earlier discussion about you satisfying yourself that there is a basis to include these specific names. And if that is your system, then paragraph 3.13 should not be there, because it means people will be included without it being justified to you who gave the authority. You understand the point I'm making?
I understand.
So 3.13 is very much open to abuse if you're not controlling it, if they don't come back to you to justify. And what you are saying to us now is you gave them that latitude to justify just from 3.1 up to 3.12, but then beyond that, you gave them latitude to justify that, and you were satisfied that there is merit in having 3.1 up to 3.12 to be investigated. But then what you go on to do then in 3.13, and you say to us that's how IDEC has always operated, is you then leave it to them to then determine as they go along to investigate without having to justify to you, which defeats the very purpose of justification to you in the first place. So my suggestion would be, if that's how you were operating, then you may as well just have at 3.13. They come and they tell you, we are going to investigate anyone that may be implicated, because that's the effect of 3.13. It allows anyone that Colonel Padeachi gets their name, you know, if Mr. Adams had said, Mr. Bodlani, that's all that would have happened. He would have gone and investigated him under 3.13 without coming to you as the repository of the authority to authorize investigations into individuals, without coming to you to say, here's my justification for investigating him.
It was not the intention, but I do take
But it is the effect.
It in all likelihood is the effect, and I take the point. And just for reassurance, Mr. Botlani is not in 3.13.
Yeah, we don't know who else Mr. Colonel Padeachi included in there, but he may well, and you have no control over that. You have no way of knowing. And I say Colonel Padeachi not to target him specifically, all your investigators. They may well be conducting investigations of individuals that are not authorized by you, and that may possibly not be related to a subject matter with that kind of provision.
The point is taken, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. We were still with that application. I see if we go to page 3311.
Sorry, Ms. Sello, maybe before you go,
Yes.
then let me ask my question before I forget. You say at 3310 under 4, participation of other disciplines, and you have the asset forfeiture unit. Was the asset forfeiture unit ever involved with this investigation at this point? And what was their involvement?
So, what we ordinarily do is once an investigation is commenced with, we will send or we will invite asset forfeiture in to know that there's a new investigation. But the investigation progresses for quite some time before they're brought back in, because it depends on the stage of the investigation. And their purpose is then to determine, as the commissioners know, whether or not the offenses as they are deal with the proceeds of crime, and whether or not that must be taken forward.
So you, IDEC, as a matter of course, every investigation you alert the AFU
Yes,
that you're conducting that investigation.
correct.
Even though on the face of it, let's take a Section 27 referral, and even if on the face of it, your Section 27 doesn't raise issues that may implicate any forfeiture issues, you, as a matter of course, just inform them of that.
That is correct, and they will make an assessment at the end. There are many matters where at the end of the assessment, there isn't a recovery to be made, either in terms of the civil and or the criminal recovery. But it is a matter of practice in the entire NPA that we do refer matters to asset forfeiture, be they to determine proceeds of crime or instruments of criminality.
So there would be a letter in this docket or this file, this CIN file, there would be a letter that is directed to the asset forfeiture unit that we must have, or we must find.
What we ordinarily do when the team has its first meeting, they invite a colleague from the asset forfeiture unit. And as the matters progress within those meetings, there are engagements and it's usually emails that are shared between the colleagues, setting out what they require if they found anything. And because we are part of the NPA, it's not an invite per se, they are drawn into the matter.
So if we were minded to get more detail about what happened in the first meeting, we would expect, on your explanation, that because you seem to now say there's nothing in writing, that's fine. I don't quarrel if that's how you were doing things. But if we were to look into that first meeting, we would and we should find that there was a representative of the asset forfeiture unit, and therefore such a person would be able to tell us, in fact, what happened in that meeting.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Mr.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Then perhaps just to close up that angle, please go to 3308, same file, same document. And I'm looking at paragraphs 1.3 to paragraph 1.7, where the document provides the nature of crimes that are being investigated. On my reading of them, I don't see how, let me ask you a question. In which one in particular would SIU find a role?
So we also invite SIU where there are issues of procurement and or contracts.
Okay.
And they do assist us with the investigation to determine legitimacy of those contracts.
Yes.
It may turn out that there shouldn't be a further criminal investigation in that matter, and the SIU is able to deal with that contract, setting it aside and recouping the money for that department. Because that is generally part of that mandate.
So that's what would be what's set out in paragraph 1.7.
That would be correct.
Then my reading of this, and bearing in mind your explanation, this application for an investigation in terms of 2813 is broader than the section 27F as we have it, because my reading of section 27 does not include any allegations of fraud and corruption pertaining to awarding of tenders and contracts. Remember, that's file 2, page 512. The closest I get to is a general statement at paragraph 4, where Mr. Adams says he suspects that Generals Kumalo, Madondo, and Lushaba were manipulating procurement processes. That's as far as he takes it.
That is where you find it.
So, and we land with fraud and corruption pertaining to awarding of tenders and or contracts involving SAPs and or circumventing of procurement processes at 1.7.
And that also goes back, Council, to paragraph 4.
Yeah, I say at paragraph 4 of the section 27 affidavit speaks to manipulation of procurement processes and processes to appoint. The rest of the affidavit concentrates on processes to appoint, but it just that one throwaway line where Mr. Adams says he suspects manipulation of procurement processes and says nothing more beyond that. Remembering that beyond that he speaks of abuse of the funds, the Secret Service funds themselves, but that's not procurement.
No.
So I'm just interested in just reading that one-liner, how we end up with a potential.
Sorry, I just want to read that abuse of funds,
Okay.
because I seem to think they have a correlation that the funds are
And then I say this on the assumption that abuse of the Secret Service fund effectively means utilizing the funds not for the purpose they were intended for, which suggests an illegality, and that can never be termed procurement.
No.
Yeah.
When he refers in paragraph 5, he
Okay.
talks to the unlawful access and use of the secret funds, and the purpose for which those funds are accessed, and it doesn't talk to procurement. It talks to they are accessed in order to
Yes.
give to someone.
And at paragraph 5, all he says is his suspicion that the funds, as he says, quote, became taken unlawfully
Yes,
from the secret funds account to be given to the former police minister, Minister Becky Cele.
That is
Close
correct.
quote. That's not procurement.
no, that's not the procurement.
Okay.
Let me ask more tenders and contracts that were awarded. Did you investigate or your investigation involve arising from this referral? What tenders have you investigated and what contracts?
They are in the file that must be made available by midday today. That is a file that is still under inquiry, but that is where it relates to, Commissioner Baloyi. It's not in the dockets that were handed over.
In that file, we will find tenders or
In that file-
contracts that you investigate or you are investigating as a result of this Section 27 referral.
That is what I understand, yes.
Sorry,
I
what
just
does
want
it,
to
what
go
does
back
it mean?
into my- Sorry.
You started off by saying it will be in that file. Now you say that's what you understand. What does that answer mean?
Because I had to ask what was in each file so that we could make the files available. Part of the file that must be made available is a complaint that was lodged by Mr. Adams. Commissioners would recall he talked of 3 dockets, then he talked of and a Langlaagte docket. From what I understand, that is where the investigations lie in terms of the procurement of contracts, as well as it is here.
Well, you may not be able to remember offhand, but my interest is in getting a clear answer from you that you, arising from the Section 27, you have investigated or you are investigating matters relating to specific tenders, because we are not speaking generally. There are tenders and contracts that you are investigating arising from the Section 27 referral, and we will find that in a file.
As soon as we get the file, I'll be able to confirm that.
You are unable to confirm now. Well, then you're going to make me ask. You're going to make me ask the question that Ms. Sello asked you earlier, which is, well, if we don't find it, what are you saying? We pronounce about it or we comment about it?
If it's not in the file that I was told is the file dealing with Langlaagte and with contracts and procurement, then the same answer applies. Then there's a challenge with why it's not there.
Thank you.
And perhaps to take advantage and be more direct, 1.7, does it by any chance refer to the 360 million subcontract awarded to Medicare 24? Does it have anything to do with that?
Not at all.
It's a different contract.
Medicare was a separate
Okay.
Section 27 referral all on its own.
Thank you.
And unrelated.
And while we are on this, do you know how far do we have a Langlaagte related inquiry and investigation into specifically those contracts here?
That is the file we're waiting for.
Oh, there is an inquiry into the Langlaagte complaint.
That is correct.
Noted. If we go to 3311 on the same file, we are still at file 8. I see there it's dated, at the top it should just show dated the 6th of December 2024. It's signed by you as the ID. Is that correct? How does it work? Because if we look at 3307, it's supposed to be directed to you from Advocate Santos Manilal and Advocate D. Ramsamy. How do you get to sign it? I don't see anywhere where either one of them signed. I would have expected for them to sign, to make application as the heading in the tram line suggests, and then you consider and then you approve or not approve or you amend. So all I see is in this document. In this document, we are looking at a document addressed to you. And at 3311, it's signed by you, suggesting to a reader that you made this application to yourself. And I don't think that's how it's intended to read. How do I reconcile that with how it's supposed to read?
So how it is supposed to read is under 8, on 3310, Commissioners, under 8, there's 8.1. It is recommended that there was supposed to be a signature, either from Advocate Manilal or Ramsamy, and then for me to be able to agree and sign off the.
Are you saying that's how it's supposed to have read because that is how normally they read?
That's
or
how
do they all read as reflected here, that it's recommended that an investigation in terms of 2813 be undertaken and then you immediately sign as if you are the one recommending?
No, there should be space for me to comment,
Yes.
their signature, space for me to comment, and then the signature that followed on 3311.
And that's how normally they would be within IDEC.
That is correct.
Why is this one different?
I honestly can't tell you why, but it is different.
You signed it. I think there's more you can say about this, why it is different. I take it that when you read it,
Yes,
you saw that it doesn't have signature for either Advocate Ramsamy or Advocate Manilal. You saw that it doesn't have space or provision for you to make comment. And you saw that it requires you to sign it and date it. So you didn't sign blindly. You applied your mind
no,
to this
I
document.
did apply my mind to the recommendation, the signature notwithstanding.
Yes, but then who's recommending to you?
The lack of signature,
Lack of
notwithstanding.
signature.
Yeah.
And
In this,
with full application of mind, you thought it appropriate to sign?
Advocate Ramsamy yes, she brought this application to me on the 5th. We went through the application and I then signed the application.
Do you know what the risk is? And I don't know if you appreciate it. It's that, or maybe I'll put it differently. What would you say to perhaps an unfair claim that you and you alone drafted this document and you drafted it for yourself and you signed it and nobody else took part in that in the creation of that document? Would it be an unfair accusation, and what would your response there to be if you were confronted with such?
It would be an unfair accusation because there is a process that follows. The application is drafted by somebody and it is brought by them. This portion is missing in this matter. I would, when you read it, it does make a recommendation from the author, which is from Manilal and Ramsamy. They make a recommendation. I agree with the recommendation and I have signed it. I accept that, as we always do, there should have been the signature and the space that we always have for comment, and the comment would have had to have been the recommendation as per 8.1 is either it's approved or not approved.
Did you not notice that before you signed it? Did you not notice that the people who are supposedly the authors of this document do not append their signatures or a date Because a date is important, it's not just the signature. The same way you do with that 6 December date, the date when they give it to you, whether it's on the 5th or the 4th, is equally important. Did it not strike you as odd that at the end of the document their names do not appear, nor does the date when they gave you this document?
So, Chair, Commissioner Kumalo, I took the date as is, which is on the front of the document, which is the 5th of December 2024, as being the date of the document.
But normally the same way you do, if you look at dated and signed at on 3311 and then your signature afterwards, the two usually go together. Because, for example, if now they distance themselves from this document and they say, well, we did not make the recommendation, how do we establish that they did in the absence of their signature or the date when they appended a signature to the document?
I hear you. But the document does come from them with the date. It just didn't have the signature. But I take your point. It is done. In IDEC, they do put it in as a memorandum request, and it is usually signed. There is space for comment, and then for me to indicate whether approved or not approved, and then the application is also attached.
And why did you not pick it up or raise it at the time? Because the way you are responding now, it looks like you are seeing this for the first time.
No, I'm not sure why I didn't raise it.
I think, Ms. Johnson, unless there's a page missing or pages missing before page 3311, if that's all of it, if what we are looking at now is all of what was presented to you, then the other incomprehensible issue about this letter is that whoever drafted it, whether Mr. Manilal or Ms. Ramsame, would in fact have put you down at 3311 as the signatory of this letter, because that's what it means. You're a signatory of this letter, and on the face of it, until there's an explanation, which is that the page is missing, then what Ms. Sello is proposing to you, it leads only to that conclusion, which is, well, you either drafted this letter yourself, or a letter was presented, and this is my addition, was presented to you, you made your own changes to it, and then you signed it off. It doesn't contain exactly what would have been presented to you. That's what it looks like on the face of it. And I allow for the fact that a page may be missing, and maybe you can pull out a page that shows that these people made the recommendation, and it provided for you to indicate your approval. But as it stands now, on the face of it, it suggests this is your production.
I can confirm it isn't, but I take the point that you're making about how it comes across.
What it looks like.
But it was not my document.
Yes.
I did not compile the document. The
Yes.
document was presented.
And you understand my point about, if it's not a case of a page missing, then it would be strange that Mr. Manilal or Ms. Ramsame would have signed off at the bottom as if you are the writer of this letter.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And we know that from your previous testimony that following this authorization that we are dealing with at CJC 3905, page 3307, on that particular day as well, there was a hive of activity. 2 letters written to, I think it's Lieutenant General Mbuso Kumalo requesting the dockets, a letter to General Sintumole, your authorization of the panel, the designated members to look into this, and the presentation of himself by Mr. Rapesu at the inspectorate to go obtain the dockets. The 6th of December was a busy day.
Yes, ma'am.
Very. Is that like standard busy days for IDEC?
It is standard when they are starting with an investigation and they are looking for, it depends on what they're looking for.
Yes.
And in this instance, because they were looking for the dockets, allegations being that the dockets had been lost, it created its own sense of urgency, is to locate the dockets, nothing else beyond that.
So you consider the investigation urgent?
The tracing of the dockets urgent, yes.
Why?
The dockets, the allegation by Adams is the dockets are already missing. We are given a referral. We need to register an investigation. The investigation is now registered in terms of 2813. And the first exercise out of that, in order to go forward, is to trace the dockets.
I don't understand why. The referral is not referring a complaint of interception. We settled that one.
Yes.
It's referring a complaint about conduct, specific conduct, as articulated in the section 27. My suggestion is the dockets become completely irrelevant. This is a new complaint that must be substantiated on its own terms. And if I'm anywhere close to being correct, I would like to understand what was the urgency about this particular investigation. Just the allegation that dockets are missing and it's enough to set fire to IDEC and everybody runs in all directions.
That's not what happened, Council.
Okay.
We found out on that day that the dockets must be in Gauteng. I know it sounds like a lot of, it happened in a phased approach. The investigators tried to determine where the dockets are. We then write to Major General Kumalo. He gives an indication of where the dockets are. We have to then follow that up. There's still time in that day to follow that up. And when we finally do follow where it is, we have to stand down because they can only then be made available on the Monday.
On the 9th, yeah.
So it wasn't, we have to get it today. It was, where are they? As you get the information, you follow that information. And when the destination of those dockets was determined, and it was determined that they were in a safe and that they were with a specific general, we went back on Monday.
We didn't touch on it, although we dealt with it with Colonel Padiache about the urgency of obtaining these dockets, and perhaps we will turn to that next.
Okay.
And my idea is to make the point that IDEC dealt with this investigation as of the 6th of December as a matter of extreme urgency, and I just want to understand why. But I see it's 11:04, the commissioners need to break for tea.